Hello, this is your brain on drugs, and this is the punk rock psychiatrist. So today, back to the obesity medicine series and continuing on with lifestyle medicine and nutrition. This is actually an episode I've been waiting for a while. We're going to talk about ultra processed foods. Now, before you turn it off and you're like, I know what ultra processed foods are. I know what I need to know about ultra processed foods. I would give it a listen because I think a lot of people don't quite understand this topic. They don't quite know, what is processed versus ultra processed versus unprocessed versus, there's all these different levels. And it's like, which ones are good and which ones aren't? And the answer is, in many cases, we're not really sure. I think a lot of people out there, they're kind of this idea that like anything that's processed or ultra processed is bad for us. And this is not the case. I can't remember his name, but there's a scientist down in Brazil who came up with this kind of levels of processing, where he would say that say level one would be like an apple picked off the tree, and like level two would be like slices of apple, and level three would be like applesauce, which is just like cooked apple. The skin's peeled off, it's cooked, mushed, blended, and that level four would be like an apple pie at McDonald's, right? So that was kind of like an example. And what he had found was that it was only really the last level of processing that was bad. So he found that, say the apple sauce, which would be processed for sure, was actually not that bad for us. As long as you're not adding like sugar and starches and stabilizers and all these funky things, um, just having like cooked apple, not a bad thing, right? I mean, everything is processed. I think we get this idea that like, oh, something's processed, therefore it's bad. But like almost everything is processed. I mean, we don't eat raw meat, raw vegetables. I mean, there is the raw food diet out there, which I think is a bit extreme and kind of nuts. But you know, I think you could probably do it. I don't think you need to do it. I think there's a lot of things you have to be careful with a diet like that. I think you're needlessly restricting yourselves when you do something like that. I think people seem to be attracted to these like extreme diets, like raw food diet or fruitarian diet, which is like a Jainism diet, where this is a diet where you don't want to harm any living creature, and so you only eat things that will not kill the plant. So like an apple would be okay, but a carrot wouldn't, right? Because you're not killing the apple tree by eating the apple, but when you eat the carrot, you're killing the carrot plant. So there's a lot of extreme stuff out there, and some of these are there's religion based to it, which is like a separate, that's like a completely different idea. But I don't know, for some reason people seem to think that I think people have a general sense of, oh, what we're doing now is not working, let's completely throw this out and do something completely nuts. Or processing is bad, therefore I don't want anything processed. Or I think a lot of people are just like, man, everything processed is just bad for you. So like, what can I do? I mean, I have to eat something, so whatever, I'll just eat processed food. And just kind of give up, because it's like, oh, this isn't even possible. Like just how could I eat without this, right? And so those are the people I want to talk to. The people that don't want to be extreme, that think that they don't know how to avoid the bad foods, and they don't know what the bad foods are, and they don't think that they can eat well and healthy and delicious without it. Those are the folks I'm targeting, because I'm here to tell you, you can eat better, cheaper, tastier, healthier, all that stuff, and get rid of this junk, and you'll be happy that you did it. All right. Now there's a lot we don't know. Now, there's a lot of ultra processed foods, and I'm going to define ultra processed foods. We're going to get to that soon. But there's a lot of ultra processed foods, right? I would think of like the McDonald's apple pie as the ultra processed food, whereas the kind of naturally made applesauce, maybe you made applesauce yourself from an apple, Okay, not like maybe the commercially bought kind, but like you made it yourself. That would be like more like a processed food versus ultra processed. Um, there's probably some ultra processed stuff that is not bad for us. There's this idea that GMOs are bad for us, genetically modified foods. Science says no. There's really, we have no indication that this is the case. So I think a lot of people, it's kind of like being Amish. It's like anything that's new and not the way our ancestors did it, like it must be poison. But what you have to imagine is that your ancestors didn't live very long. Your ancestors like died at childbirth like 33% of the time. So we don't need to be taking a cue from what our ancestors did all the time. But I think there's probably some knowledge locked up back there that we've thrown out the window that we probably should not have. Right? Like I like to live in the gray zone. I don't do the black and white where it's like it was either all good or all bad before, or it's all good or all bad now. No, there was some goodness then that we probably lost, and there's some goodness now that we want to keep, that we don't want to throw away. And using science is how we find out what those things are. And so that's what we're going to do today. Is I'm going to try and give you, I mean, as best I can, what ultra processed food is, and how to do some replacements, how to know what to avoid, how to know what to look for on packaging. All right. So, and then what it can do, what do we know that it can do to your body? So, we're going to talk all about ultra processed food. Because remember, in the previous episodes, I was talking about, hey, this is the stuff that you should eat. Now, we're going to talk about the stuff that you shouldn't eat. All right. If you want to be healthy, all right, mentally, physically, right, you can eat this stuff and you'll probably do fine, but you're more likely to get chronic illness that is going to make it to where you don't live as long and healthy and as you probably would have wanted to. All right, so let's define ultra processed food. And I do not have a simple definition here. I have a list of many things that will help you identify that something is an ultra processed food. All right, so the best definition, and I got this from somewhere else, somebody on a podcast somewhere. This was the best definition I could find: wrapped in plastic and contains at least one ingredient that you will not typically find in a domestic kitchen. To me, that was the best definition I've ever seen. So, I mean, it's the stuff that's in bags and boxes in the grocery store, other than in the frozen section. Frozen vegetables in the bags, that's just pure vegetables frozen in a bag. Or, like, say, a piece of fish in a bag in the frozen section, right? But typically things that are wrapped in some sort of plastic or in a box, and usually they're in plastic inside the box, um, and they contain one ingredient that you will not find in a domestic kitchen, right? So when you look at the ingredients on the back, and these didn't used to be there, this was mandated to be put on there at some point. And if you look at what's in there, and this is all stuff that you could like get in the grocery store, then that's not ultra processed. That's just somebody cooked it for you, right? Like they just, you could have made this. You could have gathered the ingredients. They've just kind of done it for you, and then that I would say is fine, because whether somebody else cooks your food for you, you cook it for yourself, it's the same thing, right? I think if you cook it fresh, it's going to taste better. But from a health standpoint, that we're not that worried. Now there could be some things that we're adding in there. Each they're not going to let you have things that have been shown to be dangerous, with, well, there's some exceptions, but um so each one of these ingredients or these things you've never heard of that you can't buy, that wouldn't be in your kitchen, not all these things are harmful. In fact, individually they've been tested as safe, right? But 40 years later, is it, are you having a heart attack because you've been having this thing for 40 years? It's hard to test something like that, right? What we know is that these chemicals and things that they add and put into these processed foods, um, individually tested safe, pretty safe stuff. But And the thing is, some of those may be completely safe, absolutely no reason to be concerned at all, but we don't know which ones they are. You know, there could be stuff that we're adding in there that's actually helping with shelf life and flavor and could be actually good, because they put those things in there to improve shelf life, to improve stability, to improve texture, to improve like taste, all these sorts of things to make the food cheaper and tastier, right? Not really make it better for you. That's not really an aim. It's to make it like to where you'll want to buy it, and so that it's as cheap as possible. And some of those things may be perfectly fine, no problems whatsoever. And some of them might be cumulatively a problem. Research is ongoing to figure out which is which. So my general stance is I try to stay away from all of it if possible, as much as possible. Have I done that my entire life? Absolutely not. I have eaten so many chips, man. I don't know. I don't know. I've eaten. I used to get three different kinds of chips: tortilla. I'd get Ruffles to dip in like a sour cream sauce, and I would get like a flavored chip. That was my thing. Three types of chips a day, right? Salsa. I would make homemade salsa, so I would have salsa, I would have the cream dip, and I would have just like regular chips, and that was like my snacks. Three kinds of chips. Um, so yeah, I have had my fair share. I grew up on McDonald's. It's almost all I ate. So I went to Europe when I was 13, and and I basically had to ask my mom to bring me to McDonald's because I was such a picky eater. All this beautiful food that like was being had on the trip, and I'm eating McDonald's the whole time. So if there's those of you out there that think, "Oh, this guy's holier than thou" or whatever, no, I've eaten the crap diet. I've lived it. When I was in college, I lived off the dollar menu. I was eating, remember the dollar menu? Of course, that doesn't exist anymore, but I would go to McDonald's and I would get like the double cheeseburger for like $1 when it was $1. I would go to Taco Bell and I would get their dollar menu items. And I would like go back and forth. And I'd be like, oh, this one's only $1.50. I'll throw that in for variety today. And I'd usually get like two items off the dollar menu. I'd eat for like $2 plus tax. So it'd be like 2.15. And that was my lunch every day. And it wasn't even my money. I just I did, I was trying to save money as much as possible. My parent, I didn't want to charge my parents that much, and I was trying to live cheaply. You know what I mean? So I've lived cheaply. I've lived very cheaply, and I have eaten very cheaply. Even when I first worked in the military, I was eating off the dollar menu for lunch every day. I was going to Taco Bell at the food court. I was going to the drive-through at Wendy's. I remember this, my first job. I'm an officer in the military, but I did not want to spend more than $2 or $3 for lunch, and so I was eating off the dollar menu every day. Um, so my most and then I'm fashioning myself as like some sort of like amateur chef at night, right? Like watching the Food Network, trying to make the best. I mean, this wasn't necessarily the healthiest food, but it was really good food that I was learning from chefs on the Food Network back like 25 years ago, when they used to have more cooking shows. And so I'm eating this like really good food, fresh, fresh vegetables cooked at night, and I'm eating off the dollar menu for lunch because I wasn't really concerned about health in what I was eating. I wanted food that I liked, and I wanted it to be cheap. And so if I could make it myself and I could learn how to make it really good, then it would be cheap and tasty. And then I liked fast food. I grew up on it. So for those of you out there that think that I'm some sort of like, like holier than thou health Nazi, it's not the case. I have gone through the gamut. Luckily, all this unhealthy eating did not negatively impact my metabolic health and my weight. I'm genetically gifted, I suppose. But like I noticed when I hit 40 that this stuff was starting to catch up with me. All the chips I was eating, all the sugary beverages that I was eating, and I was like, you know what? I want to maintain the physique that I've had my whole life, and I'm noticing that it's starting to fall apart. And that's when I first started to try and change my diet. Um, and I progress with that. I'm 47 now, so I'd say 3 years ago I really had a deep dive into it, and I consume this material. So I am guilty of this for almost my entire life, but it's never too late, right? It's never too late. I'm lucky my cholesterol wasn't up. I'm lucky I didn't have high blood pressure. But now my cholesterol's really low. My blood pressure's really low. My metabolic factors. I have no metabolic health factors in the toilet, and I'm eating healthier than ever. And all this advice I'm giving you, I'm following this as much as I possibly can, but there's always room for improvement. All right. So I just wanted to give you kind of my own story there so you could see that, like, I'm coming from a background of I've been in the bad food. I lived off of ultra processed food. All right. So, definition: wrapped in plastic, contains at least one ingredient you won't find in a domestic kitchen. Other stuff: it's highly palatable, right? That means it's really easy to eat. It's likable food, right? Readily available. You can make it really quickly. Like, it's pre-made, just heat it up for a minute in the microwave. Super fast and easy. I remember I used to go to like Sam's, and I would get these frozen boxes full of like taquitos and tacos and stuff, and I would just heat them up, and I was like, wow, these are so cheap and so fast and so delicious. And I would get like a sauce I liked, and I'd dip them in there, right? Inexpensive. So this food tends to be, this always baffled me. I'd always wonder, like, I would think about McDonald's, and I'd be like, they got to pay these employees, they got to pay for lights, rent, franchise fees, um, all the equipment, the 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 chairs, the tables, right? Water. I mean, they pay for a lot of stuff here, right? Like, this is not a cheap organization, right? But yet, it seemed like if I were to buy the same ingredients at the grocery store that looked like they were in that burger, that I couldn't make it as cheap as McDonald's did. I could not make a burger as cheap as they were making it, despite the fact that they had all these extra costs on top of it. And that always kind of frightened me. Like, why is their meat so much cheaper than what I can buy at the grocery store? Why is their buns so much cheaper? There must be something really bad about it. Okay? And I'm not saying don't eat McDonald's. You want to eat McDonald's once a month because you like it? That's not going to harm you. Do not eat there every day. Europeans, they have these places, right? But they don't eat there every day. They don't. But I did. Americans do. I mean, whenever I go back to America, I find it hard to find food that's not like this, that's affordable, that I can eat every day, right? So this stuff is cheap, right? And people are tight for money, and if they can find something that tastes good, readily available, saves them money, why wouldn't they? Right? I mean, it just makes sense. All right. So, what are some other aspects of ultra processed food? It tends to be soft, kind of like baby food like. Takes less time to chew and eat. All right. This is another factor. If you have if your body has to do less work to break something down, you're going to absorb more energy from that, right? It's kind of like the difference between peanuts and peanut butter, right? So and let's just talk about peanut butter without sugar in it, just crushed peanuts. The work of crushing that's already happened. You're not crushing it yourself. It takes energy for you to like chew those peanuts and break those peanuts down. And if it's already turned into a paste, then that's going to take less work. And it's already I mean, the surface area of the molecules that make up those peanuts is more exposed. And so you're going to absorb more of it. So you're going to absorb more calories, and it's going to take your body less energy to turn it into that, because already baby food like. You see what I'm saying? And this was an interesting fact that I found. Every 10 years, our jaws are getting smaller. So every every 10 years of time, like 2000 to 2010 to 2020, like us as human beings, our jaws are getting smaller because they're doing less work chewing food. I've actually been told that I have like a big jaw. And so like I don't know, maybe I like to chew things. But in general, we're like sipping our food through a straw, and our our jaws need to be I mean it's a muscle like any other muscle. I'm not a dentist, but I'm sure that there's a dentist out there that's saying, yeah, that's true, you know. And it's not good, right? So what else? So much of this ultra processed food is designed to not make us full, so we will eat more. This is massive here, right? So you don't get full off of it, and you want more. So like it doesn't satiate you. It doesn't make you feel like, okay, I've had enough. It makes you feel like, man, I mean, there's the chips, but you can't eat just one, right? Not only do you not feel full from eating it, you actually like feel hungrier. And so like the whole point of eating is to fuel you so that you can go through your day. It's and here we have food that's basically making you not full so that you want more of it. This was crazy. I heard this that the average like people living in the Mediterranean are eating like around 2,000 calories a day, and the average American eats like over 3,800 calories a day. I mean, it's almost double. It's insane. Um, I don't know if I've talked about this yet, but I think I did in the last episode where I said between like 1990 and 2010, we consume um, additional 500 calories a day as to what we did before. And that, and I was talking about how that um, we should have gained hundreds of pounds, but we don't because we have this system that keeps things in balance. But you mess with it enough with ultra processed food, and it will go out of balance. Okay. All right. So doesn't make us full, makes us hungrier. 73% of the food in the grocery store is ultra processed. 73%. About three quarters of the food in there. So most of the food in the grocery store is ultra processed. And I'm talking about the United States. Um, the US is about 10% more than the UK, from what I hear. Um, 60% of the American diet is ultra processed, 70% for children. Why more for children? I mean, they're pickier. They don't want to eat vegetables. They're harder to cook for. We don't have time. We spend less time preparing the food for the kids. They don't want to eat the healthier stuff. So yeah, kids, 70% ultra processed. What else? So fat and sugar do not exist in the natural environment together, right? So there's no, as far as I know, there is no food that is fat and sugar. Like that's like what it is, just fat and sugar, like pie crust, right? Pie crust is, if you've ever made pie crust, it's just butter and flour. That's it. There's no water. It's not like pizza dough. There's no water in there. It's straight up butter, and butter contains um, moisture. There's water in butter, but it's just straight up butter and flour. And flour basically is like about to become sugar. So these foods, and then things that are fried. You got fried things that also have sugar on them. Um, this fat sugar combination doesn't exist in the natural environment. We're not really equipped to have all this fat and sugar. All right. Next, so fructose um, and starch always exist with fiber in the natural environment. So think about it. I'm going to talk about fructose in then probably the next episode. I don't think I'm going to have time today. In the next episode, we're going to talk about fructose, right? But fructose is it's injected into food as ultra processed food now, but previously it was only found in fruit, which contains water and fiber and other things. So This is not natural, right? Fructose is not bad, but when you just have straight syrup fructose, high fructose corn syrup, which is in a lot of ultra processed foods, not good. Sugar causes four diseases: diabetes, type 2, um, metabolic associated uh, steatotic liver disease, so fatty liver, cardiovascular disease, and tooth decay. Sugar is the first thing that you should get out of your diet if you're trying to fix your diet. Sugar is the first thing to go, and liquid sugar is the very first part of that. Get rid of liquid sugar first. That's the easiest thing to get rid of. Next, get rit of sugar. Um, and then we also have highly processed oils, which are newer in our diet, but I've talked about this before. I'm going to talk about it when we talk about fat. I don't have a problem with these seed oils. Not concerned about the seed oils. All right. Um, I want to give you some examples of the ultra processed version versus the not ultra processed version. Okay. So you can kind of look and say, am I eating this? And if I am, what could I replace it with? Okay. So let's talk about cheese. What are we'll go with the ultra processed first. The ultra processed would be like your Velveeta, your nacho cheese, American cheese, Kraft singles, right? Laughing Cow, pizza cheese, not the shredded pizza mix, but like there's like cheese that's like pizza cheese. I live in Japan. Most cheese is not like a part of the Japanese diet. Most of the cheese they sell at the store is processed. Not the case in America. Most of the cheese in America is actually not processed. Cheddar, mozzarella, Gouda, like these are not processed cheeses. Okay. I mean, there's processed versions of them and it will say on the package. Okay. But in Japan, most of the cheese is processed, but they don't eat much of it. Okay. So there may be cheese labeled as pizza cheese, um, a lot of cheese spreads, cheese whiz, right? So you can see if you read the package, read the ingredients. If it's if it's milk and rennet and salt and enzymes, then that's cheese. If there's like other things in there, and if it says like a processed cheese product, and if it's called one of these things, if you see like if you don't see if it doesn't say mozzarella, right? Gouda, Edam, Brie, Camembert, these are the unprocessed versions. All the cheeses you've heard of that basically come from Europe mostly. Of course, there's a lot of cheese from the Middle East too. There's cheese in India, right? Paneer, right? There's cheese all over the world, but most of the famous cheeses that we've all heard of come from Europe. Parmesan, that Kraft powdery Parmesan garbage, like I'm sure it doesn't exist in Europe, and if it did, they certainly don't call it Parmesan. This is another thing I like about Europe. You're not allowed to use a word unless it's from that region. So like they have this thing like when I go to the store in the US or on base, it will say feta. If you find feta in Europe, it's from Greece. Guaranteed, it's from Greece. I've been to Bulgaria. The Bulgarians are not happy about the Greeks having the word feta, but there's nothing they can do about it. So the Bulgarians, who also claim to have invented feta, have to call their cheese white cheese or farmer's cheese or something else like that. Um, but in the US, you can call whatever the heck you want feta. Um, so I always look on the package. I don't want feta if it's not from Greece. It costs more, but the thing is, to me that's not feta. It's not feta, and I don't want to eat fake cheese. To me, like you're not following whatever processes that they follow in Greece. And I'll eat the Bulgarian white cheese feta product because that's real. I because I trust that as a product. I've seen that's also sold in some specialty stores in the states. So I stay away from the stuff that's labeled like the Parmesan. I thought Parmesan cheese was not good my entire life, because all I ever had was that green canned stuff. And you know what I'm talking about. The stuff in the jar on the table for the pizza, which is not Parmesan cheese. Um, and then, I had Parmigiano Reggiano from Parma, and I was like, oh my gosh, where have you been all my life? As Mario Batali would say, the undisputed king of cheeses. Totally true. Um, I'll use Pecorino Romano, and I'll use Parmigiano Reggiano. I was just in that area of Italy, and I brought back a giant kilogram of um, was it 36-month Parmesan cheese and some 100-month Parmesan Reggiano cheese. And it's a lot more affordable over there as well. But um, it's to me, the names of cheeses that you recognize, those are the ones you want to go with. But then you have to be careful if you're not in Europe, and where they don't have to follow these naming conditions, and they can call something Parmesan when it's not Parmesan. Okay, there's a lot of and there's probably some good products that call themselves Parmesan in the States that are made, I'm sure not up to the standards of real Parmesan cheese, but are still good, healthy cheeses that may be more affordable. But I don't want them using the name Parmesan, because to me, that's not what it is. Call it something else. Just call it something else. All right. So what you're looking for is, you want unpasteurized. The better the cheese is, unpasteurized cheeses, because cheeses are fermented. They have live, healthy bacteria in them. So they, they're unpasteurized. They're aged. They don't have to be aged, but the more aged they are, the more healthy um, bacteria they may have in them. And so cheese is like a great source of fermented food. Cheese is a fermented product. It's fermented milk. That's what it is. And so we talked about fermented food before. Cheese is high on my list. I love cheese. I'll eat any cheese, right? So Roquefort, Stilton, anything. These are all real cheeses. Velveeta, Nacho, American, weird names that, if it doesn't say the name of a kind of cheese that you're familiar with, that's like not cheese. That's processed junk. Avoid it. All right. Next, margarine versus butter. Um, I wouldn't say to consume a lot of butter, but I think if you want this taste and this flavor, go with butter. Don't go with margarine. Um, Margarine is, it's a pretend butter. It's a processed. I they've gotten the trans fats out of it, but they don't have them all out of there. There still could be up to like 0.49% in there, and it's not as good. And like, you don't have to avoid saturated fat that much to where you need to be that worried. So I would say, don't do the margarine. Next, breads. Here's another big one. Most bread, especially bread in the United States, I'm sorry, is garbage. Okay, white breads, wheat breads, whole grains, 100%. All this. It's all kind of phony. The breads that I would recommend would be sourdoughs and rye breads. Those are my two favorite. Ezekiel is a brand. I will call out brands on this show. I'm not being paid. They make a good sprouted grain bread. That's got probably the lowest glycemic index of any bread that I'm aware of. But you you want a bread that is going to go bad within a few days. That's a good thing. You want to bet bread, I like to go to Whole Foods. They have good, freshly baked breads. Central Market in Texas, anyone from Texas, Central Market. Um, uh, you can tell I love food. I mean, I could probably make 10 episodes on this. So, breads that are freshly made are better. A lot of people say they go to Europe and they eat the bread and it may taste similar. It's much better. But that aside, they say they don't get a lot of the stomach upset there. They eat the pasta in Europe, they don't get the stomach upset. The processes by which they make these fresher breads, they have slower fermentation times. They have, and there's more time for it to break down things like fructans. A lot of people think they're sensitive to gluten, but they're really sensitive to fructans. Um, If you have celiac disease, that's not the case. Most people do not have celiac disease. If you have celiac disease, you can't have gluten. If you're gluten sensitive, you may be fructan sensitive. And so you might want to look into that. It may not be the gluten. And sourdough, the process of making sourdough breaks that down. Um, Rye bread has fructans, but a sourdough rye would be a good option. So I think to me, like a higher rye content sourdough bread would be my top. I love bread, love it. I was just came back from Europe and I ate tons of bread. I thought I would have gained all this weight. Actually, lost 3 pounds. I had all these amazing cheeses and breads and chocolates, and I'm like, oh man, I never eat chocolate like this. All this added sugar and I'm eating whatever the heck I want. Lost 3 pounds. The food there is higher quality in general. There's higher standards. And so, I don't know, all the moving around and just feeling better and having a better lifestyle, I think it made a big impact. And I mean, I want to say something about the difference between Europe and the United States because I think if you look at the obesity rates between the two places, it's not that different, right? You look at the United States, we're close to 40%. You look at Europe, they're 25 to 30%. It's less, but it's still high. But when you look at the morbid obesity rates in the US, we're getting close to 25%, and it used to be almost zero. But in Europe, it is still very low, 1-2%. So that's to me that's the difference. You see someone who's obese, you don't really notice that they're holding that much extra weight. But you see someone who's morbidly obese, that's when you notice. And that's really the difference. So some people may say, "Oh, America's not that much more obese." No, no, no. They're carrying way more weight. Okay, way more. The degree of obesity is much different. Okay, so I think that Europe has you know a growing problem that they need to address, and they do have more ultra processed foods, but America invented this stuff. We're the kings, right? And so we have the most work to do to try and undo this mess. And you can make better choices. All right, what are some other ones? Oatmeal. So a non-instant oatmeal, not my favorite thing, but compared to a breakfast cereal, way better. So you don't want the one with the brown sugar in it. You don't want the instant oats. You don't want the instant oatmeal. Get the whole canister. You know, mix it with water, milk. Um, put some cinnamon in there. Put some frozen fruit or fresh fruit in there. Um, do an overnight oat. Put some chia seeds. Banana. There's so many things you can do with it, but just don't use the instant stuff. Those breakfast cereals, I grew up on breakfast cereals. I didn't just eat breakfast cereal for breakfast. It was a snack for me, right? Luckily my mother kept me away from the Fruit Loops and the Fruity Pebbles. I mean, I got them sometimes, but I was eating the healthy stuff, right? There is no healthy breakfast cereal. It's all processed. Like even like I mean, other than maybe like Fiber One, which is just like cardboard. Most of that stuff is just processed junk. There's sugar in all of it. Even if it's only if it's lower, it's still like 6-9 grams of sugar per cup, and you may eat more than a cup, right? So I would completely stay away from the breakfast cereal aisle, completely. And if you're looking, I have no breakfast cereal in my house, and I have not had any breakfast cereal in my house for a couple years now. I mean, I used to eat Wheaties as a snack thinking that it was like a healthy alternative. I was like, well, it's better than chips. Guess what? It is better than chips. And this is the other thing. When you're trying to make changes, don't expect to make the changes overnight. Move from Doritos to Wheaties, like I did. I needed something crunchy, right? I wanted something crunchy, but it was a little bit better for me. At least they're not fried. At least they're not like a ton of oil in them, or if any, right? At least it's a little bit more whole grain. So at least there's some vitamins in there, right? So you move from something that is really, really bad for you, and you move something to something that is less so. And you just keep, this can be years and years long process. You have to do it at a pace that you're going to stick with. Don't expect, like, when you have a taste for this bad food, you can't just go to, like, a bowl of kale and like expect to sustain that. I'm trying to introduce salmon into my diet now, because I don't eat a lot of meat. I don't think I'm getting enough protein. I want some more. I don't feel like I'm getting enough omega 3s, and I don't really like it. But I'm like, trying to sneak it in there, mixing it with some herbs, some garlic, some olive oil. Um, this great stuff called ajvar. It's this amazing, like, Turkish paste made from roasted red bell peppers and eggplant. It's delicious. I think there's garlic and spices and seasonings in there. Um, just trying to come up with these healthy things to try and, like, cover up the thing that I don't like. And the thing is, if you can make it palatable and actually make yourself like it, you can then transition off of a lot of the stuff that you're doing to try and enhance the flavor, some of which may not be healthy, and get to a point where you're able to actually enjoy, the healthy item. So that's what I would recommend, right? You can't expect to make this change all at once. Go from Fruit Loops to honey bunches of oats with almonds to Wheaties to oatmeal from the instant box to, like, freshly made oatmeal, right? Like, it's okay to go through that transition, right? We have decades to get ourselves healthier. And you move at the pace you have to move at. If you can move faster, move faster. If you can't, if you want to make incremental changes, okay? Let's keep going. Yogurt, right? So most yogurt, I'm sorry to tell you this, is not good for you. Most of the yogurt, like 90% of the yogurt at the store, is no bueno. All right. Because most of it has sugars, jams, um, thickeners, just a bunch of junk in them, emulsifiers. I don't know why they put starch, pectins. I don't know why they put this stuff in there. Stop putting this stuff in there. Um, it's just no good. You want the plain yogurt. You want to look on the back and it says milk. Maybe it says some sort of, like, enzyme or fermentation thing that they use to, like, or maybe there's a tiny bit of salt in there. But you want the ingredients to say milk. You're gonna see sugar on the nutritional information. That's okay. That sugar is in the milk. Okay, a little bit of sugar is not bad if it's naturally occurring. We don't want added sugar, and a lot of products have started adding that as a separate line: sugar and then added sugar. I don't care so much about sugar. I care more about added sugar. I don't want any added sugar. Not all of them delineate this, and that's why you have to look at the ingredients. If sugar is listed as an ingredient, that means it was added. So if you look and it says 9 grams of sugar and there's no sugar listed in the ingredients, there's no added sugar. If you see sugar listed in the ingredients, you don't know how much. Unless they told you the difference between the sugar and the added sugar, you don't know the difference. Sometimes I try and look at the carbs and say, okay, this many carbs, and how much of those carbs would not be sugar in this particular product. It's hard to do. Um, but anyway, I would go with your plain yogurts. So any kind of plain yogurt. Greek yogurt's good because it's got a lot of protein. I think I may have mentioned this. I found this Caspian Sea yogurt here in Japan recently. I really like this stuff. It's kind of like gooey. It's like, I don't know. I like it. It's got some different bacteria in it. I've talked about kefir. Love kefir. That's a great product. It's not really yogurt, but, like, I use it in smoothies. There's there in skyr, which I mentioned before. It's, I think, technically a cheese, but tastes like a yogurt. It's Icelandic yogurt. That's been getting more popular recently. It's very low in sugar and high in protein. So, and the thing is, you think, well, this tastes terrible. Put fruit in it. Put whole fruit in it. That's what you want to do. All right. So that's how you give it its sweetness. I make a smoothie. I just, like, put some frozen fruit that I like, and with some kefir, some yogurt, and then other things like seeds and powders and different kind of ingredients that I like, and I blend that stuff up. All right. And then it has plenty of sweetness. And then you got all the fiber and stuff in there too. All right, let's talk about sugar. Um, Sugar that I like would be natural sugar, so like dates. I just made some trail mix yesterday, in fact, and in there went dates, dried apricots, sliced almonds, sunflower seeds, and peanuts, and coke and an unsweetened desiccated coconut. Can be hard to find that. Most coconut is sweetened. I don't know why they do this. I use the Bob's Red Mill is the one that I find at my store. That's the only one I can find that's not sweetened. Don't get the sweetened coconut. These are healthy fats. There's a lot of calories in that, but I'm looking for a healthy snack. I'm actually trying to put some weight back on because I lost that weight, and I'm trying to bulk up and go to the gym and things. So like I'm actually trying to put on weight. So when you get in a situation like me where you're trying to put on healthy weight, eating things like coconut and nuts and dried fruit can be a good thing. But if you're trying to lose weight, I'd be careful with this stuff. And I'd always be careful with the dried fruit, but it gives a little bit of sweetness to it. And it's not pure sugar. In those dates, you've got fiber, you've got vitamins and minerals, right? Honey, honey is not quite as good, I would say, because there's no fiber in there, but it's better than pure sugar. It does have some nutrients in it. Okay, so if you want to put a little bit of honey in your yogurt that you add yourself rather than some corn syrup product that they added, right? Let's talk about energy bars. Most energy bars are bad for you. I pointed out to my friend the Cliff Bar it's got like 23 grams of sugar, something ridiculous in one bar. It's absolutely insane. Um, there's a coffee at Dunkin' Donuts that I heard has over 70 grams of sugar in it. I mean, this is the other thing. When you get stuff at restaurants, you don't necessarily know what's in there because there's no package. You have to go on their website and look, and it's not necessarily listed. 70 grams of sugar. That's insane. That's like over 2 cans of Coke. So you got to be careful with this stuff, okay? Um, if you're going to go with an energy bar, I would avoid the sugar alcohols. I would try and get the lowest sugar possible. If there is sugar, it's from dates or something like that. You want a simple energy bar that has very simple ingredients in it. But like that trail mix that I mentioned to you before, if you're looking for an energy bar, mix yourself up some of that. Put some stuff in there that you like. That's just one example. Make your own energy bar. You'll save money, it'll be healthier, and you'll know there's no added ingredients because you saw that list. That was just all raw. I mean, that's just fruit and nuts. That's all that's in there. There's nothing else in there. There's no I mean there's some salt on those nuts, but and you can get no salt nuts if you want to. I like a little bit of salt. I also don't have a problem with salt. Some people think that salt is bad for you. I think this is nonsense. Um, Obviously, too much of anything is bad, but I'm not concerned about my salt intake. I think my palate knows how much salt it wants, but and I'll be fine. But other stuff I am concerned about. So if you're gonna do an energy bar, the RX bar is one I think that's pretty decent. There's some. I don't know if you guys have heard of this thing. It's like the Golden Bar or something like that. This thing is like $20. Please don't waste your money on this stuff unless you're a millionaire. Just don't waste your money on this stuff. This is just not needed. We can, in fact, eat healthy ingredients without going to these lengths. All right. Fruit juice. Oh, and also with the energy bar, also watch out for protein bars, granola bars. Granola will kill you. You think, oh, this has got all these nuts and seeds, and it's packed with sugar and unhealthy carbohydrates. So watch out for granola. Next, fruit. Whole fruit, not fruit juice. People think, oh, fruit juice is just as bad for you as soda. I mean, there's a little bit of vitamins in there, but basically you're drinking sugar water. It's not much different than Hawaiian punch, to be perfectly honest with you. I would avoid fruit juice. All right, popcorn. The microwave stuff versus the fresh. I would avoid the microwave stuff. All right. So I've heard that there's PFAS in there. It's like the lining of the bag. There's like weird chemical butter substitutes chemicals in there, and fats and things. And you can make air pop popcorn, do it in olive oil, or something like that. Popcorn is a great snack for health. Let me tell you, if you're looking for a snack, popcorn is the way to go. There are some brands of pre-pop popcorn um, that I think are good. You have to look at the back of the package. But the microwave stuff, I know it's easy, but I don't recommend it. All right. And then the last one for like kind of the replacement products would be like meats. So I would go with something like a fresh chicken breast or a pork loin, or, a lean cut of meat versus bacon, salami, and most sausages. These cured products, and I will exclude the elite European Iberico hams from my list. If anyone is listening from Europe, a lot of those really high quality ones do not cause cancer, but most of these products, especially in the States, they have nitrites in them. They're not at the highest quality. Um, I think sausage is not the worst, but if you look at that sausage, there's sugar added in there. It's not just ground meat. It's not just ground meat. And it's not just spices. They put sugar in there. Check it. There's corn syrup in your sausage, especially your breakfast sausage. I loved Jimmy Dean sausage. Loved it. I had a special recipe of pasta. I would do a can of salsa, a can of tomato sauce, and a little bit of Jimmy Dean sausage, and I would just cook those three things together. It was the greatest. And I would use this El Pato brand tomato sauce. Shout out to El Pato brand Mexican tomato sauce. It's thin, and I don't know. I think people may not like it as much, but when you mix it, and then I some Herdez tomato sauce from Mexico as well with Jimmy Dean, great bolognese pasta sauce recipe. However, now I now recognize that one reason why I like this so much is because my Jimmy Dean has corn syrup in it. This is the same thing. Look at your pasta sauces. There is sugar in there. Look at your pizza sauces. There's sugar in there. Not from the tomatoes. It's added. If you make your own, it's not in there. You may wonder, why is this stuff so good? It's because there's sugar and there's oil that's not olive oil. Usually it's like sunflower oil. There's oil and sugar in there. It's like, stop putting this stuff in there. Can we just make a natural product? Come on, man. You got to do it yourself. All right. What are some other things that are kind of indicative of processed foods? Thickeners, stabilizers, emulsifiers, which act like glues, sweeteners, starches, dyes. Um, these are things that they add. If you see these things, and some of them have chemical names, I would try and stay away from these. We don't know what these all do. A lot of these things we know are not good for our gut microbiome. I'm trying to make a healthy gut microbiome. That means I want to put fiber in my stomach, in my gut, right? My intestines, really. I want to put fiber in there, and I don't want to put stuff in there. And I want to put um, healthy bacteria from things like kefir and sauerkraut and cheese in there. I don't want to put these fake alcohols, sugars, and things in there that are bad for my gut microbiome. The other thing with ultra processed food is not only do they add these things that we don't want, they take out things that we do. So they take out fiber, healthy fats, proteins, vitamins. They remove these things. And then oftentimes they put them back in, but they don't necessarily put them back in from the same source. And it's like they have to clean it all out, and then they put back in what they want so that they can make this nice, pretty, cheap processed product for you. Just eat the whole thing, not the thing that they've altered. Okay, So nutrients are removed from food and then added back. And when they get added back, we actually don't get the same properties. It's like, oh, well, we took out the fiber, but put the fiber back in. For some reason, there's something important about how it naturally existed that we don't quite understand. All right. Um, I've got some papers here, some journal articles. This is Hall et al. 2019. Two groups, one given a healthy fat, the other given ultra processed food diet, equal amounts of macronutrients and calories. Okay, so someone given a healthy diet, one group given healthy, one given ultra processed, same amount of calories, same amount of macronutrients. So same carbs, same proteins, same fats. The ultra processed food group frequently went back for seconds and gained weight because they were given access to food. They ate more. When you eat ultra processed food, you will eat more. Therefore, you will gain more weight. You will eat more sugars. You will eat more junk, and you will get these chronic diseases. Okay. Next one, Arlett et al. Annals of Internal Medicine, 2011. Same calorie restricted diet. One group adequate sleep versus one sleep deprived. This is not necessarily ultra processed food one, but I wanted to throw it in there. The adequate sleep group lost more body fat, 55%, versus muscle mass, 60%, for the other group. So the other group, the one that's getting sleep deprived, they're eating the same amount of calories, they're losing muscle mass. The one getting adequate sleep, losing fat. Okay? Sleep is so important. It's not, it's more than you think. It affects your metabolism. It affects your weight. It affects everything. Sleep is super important. I actually listened to a podcast today, and this endocrinologist said that she said sleep's more important than exercise. It's like people will say, "Oh, I got up early so I could exercise, but I only slept a few hours." And she was like, "No, better that you would have just slept those extra couple hours. That's how important it is." All right, next, Bardall from Food and Nutrition Research, 2010, compared whole bread and cheese sandwich with an ultra processed version of that. Um, so we got like a toasty here, a grilled cheese, right? We have a Whole Foods version. We got some cheddar in there. We got some whole grain bread versus some white bread and some American cheese. Okay, same calories for each sandwich. The satiety or fullness was the same between both groups. That was not necessarily expected. However, the energy expenditure was 50% greater in the Whole Foods group. So they burned more energy. Okay? Same amount of calories, burn more energy. And this is the last one. I don't have the title of this one. This is one I recently added. This is a rat study. Rats were given a Western diet, and some other rats were given a Western diet with a 50% time calorie restriction, right? So this is what's interesting. There were actually three groups. There was actually a group of rats given a healthy diet. There was one given the Western diet, and one was given a Western diet where half the time they were calorie restricted. So this kind of stimulates if you were eating a Western diet and then half the time you'd say, I'm going to go on a diet and not eat as much so I can lose weight. Okay, but when I'm not eating less, I'm eating a Western diet. So they compared these rats, and what was interesting was the rats that ate a Western diet but sometimes were calorie restricted consumed the same amount of calories overall, yet gained more weight. Okay, did you guys get that? So basically, we got rat one eating McDonald's Big Mac every day. And then we've got rat two eating a Big Mac 3 days a week and half of a Big Mac the other 4 days. Um, Somehow the rat that restricts itself half the time is gaining more weight. So this idea of, oh, I can eat whatever I want and then I'll restrict so I can get rid of it. Eat, restrict. It doesn't work. When people get off their diet, they gain back all the weight. They gain it all back. This is what's happening. That rat that goes back on the Big Macs gains all the weight back and more. They gain it all back and more. And even though they're eating, on the whole, the same amount, this kind of going back and forth between up and down and up and down. And what also happens is your body mass composition is changing. You're getting higher percentage of fat, lower percentages of muscle. People think, oh, it's people have this idea, I can eat my crap diet if I work it off. I can exercise it off. Not going to happen. I can eat my crap diet if I sometimes don't eat my crap diet. Doesn't happen. Is it working? Is it working? No, because this is what everyone does. It doesn't work. You have to get rid of the crap diet. That's the thing. All the stuff we've been talking about today, you actually have to eliminate this over time completely, except for special occasions, and honestly, once you've eliminated it, I go back and have pork ribs now and I don't enjoy them. I don't. It was just my favorite food. I don't enjoy them anymore. It's crazy. I don't enjoy the super sweet barbecue sauce. I don't enjoy, it's kind of the super fattiness of the meat. I don't enjoy it anymore. I don't the onion rings that I would eat with it, these like the Tony Roma's like onion loaf, those really thin ones. Oh, I used to love those. Dipped in their barbecue sauce. That was my meal. I don't like it anymore. I'll eat it for nostalgia and then I won't really have liked it. So you will lose a taste for it over time. All right, let's finish up. All right, so ultra processed foods are designed to make people overeat and override our natural satiety signal to the brain. This the food company wants to do to you. You've got a lot of stuff going on in government right now talking about like food dyes and seed oils. I mean, to me, these are red herrings. Seed oils are not the problem. Food dyes are not the problem. You know, do I consume seed oils? No, not really. Do I consume food dyes? No, not really. But these are like really low on my list of things to kick out. The ultra processed foods are the ones that have to go. It's all the stuff we talked about today. It's the elimination of fiber. It's the elimination of nutrients. It's the addition of all of these emulsifiers and starches and all this junk. It's less about just the seed oil, just the dyes. It's about all of it. Okay? And it's about the fact that this food is engineered to make you eat more. It makes you not full, not satisfied, and eat more, right? Um, a friend of mine used to say, as long as you restrict your calories, you can maintain your weight. It's not. It doesn't happen for many many reasons. If you can remember how we're eating like 500 more calories than we used to, which is equivalent to a Big Mac a day, that's because this food, we're not getting full and we're not getting satisfied. We want more and more and more of it. And that's how it's designed. And that's why we're getting less and less and less healthy. And gaining weight is a symptom. It's not the problem. Okay? The problem is we're getting unhealthy. The obesity is just a sign of that happening. Everyone wants to be thinner. Everyone wants to have a better looking body. But the root thing we need to be concerned about is that we're destroying our health. If you improve your health, you're going to improve your body. Not as much as you might want to, but that's something that you have to come to understand is okay, because we all have different shapes and different sizes, and that's okay. But it's the health factors, okay? The obesity is a sign of this, and these foods are designed to make us consume more of them. You have to change what you eat, and then you will eat less. When I was on this trip, I thought I was indulging. I'm like, yeah, I'm on vacation. I'm in Belgium, I've been wanting to go to Belgium forever. I never drink alcohol. I'm drinking Belgian beer. It's been a dream of mine for 15 years to be in Belgium drinking Belgian beer. It's my favorite kind of beer. I don't drink beer anymore, but I want to drink Belgian beer because I'm in Belgium. So I'm drinking a beer every day. I'm having chocolates. They call them pralines, but like to me they're bonbons. Um, I'm having them every day. I'm having bread and cheese and you know it, and I'm like, man, I lost weight. How did that happen? How did that happen? It's not because the balance of the lifestyle that I had while I was over there was a healthy one. And look what you can do with a healthy diet. You can eat some chocolates. And this is not even like 85% darks. These are like flavored filled chocolate pralines, you know? I mean, it's not what we call a praline, but that's what they call them. And I'm losing weight because it's overall a healthy diet. All right. So when we're overeating, these periods of calorie excess, they cause damage to the neurons in the hypothalamus. I've mentioned this before. It dysregulates your weight set point. We are designed to have 60 days of of storage on us so that we can survive without eating for 60 days. When you damage your hypothalamus through eating this garbage, your hypothalamus gets confused. It doesn't know. And now all of a sudden it's doing 90 days of storage and 120 days of storage. And it doesn't matter. That's your new set point. It doesn't realize the 60 anymore. It goes back to the 90 now. And now you're carrying all this extra weight. Your insulin sensitivity is disrupted, and you're metabolically ill. The only way to undo this is through cleaning up the ultra processed foods and eating healthier foods, replacing the junk with the good stuff. And what I want to tell you is the good stuff is not just the healthy stuff. I think a lot of people are like, I don't want to eat a raw carrot and kale salad and all this stuff. It's like, no, there's good stuff in there. Good cheeses and good breads and you know, first what I want you to do is you may not lose any weight. And we're going to talk about a study where they did this, where they replaced ultra processed foods with healthy foods. People didn't lose any weight, but their moods improved, their health improved, their metabolic factors improved. You know, worry about the weight second. If you do this, you will get healthier. Okay. You will fix this problem that happened in your hypothalamus where the set point gets set to the wrong place. All right. So, how can we fix this? Well, you can make better choices, but like the governments, we don't allow false claims on packaging. Insist on warnings of the dangers of products be listed on the packages. Label things as toxins. This is an ultra processed food. This has added sugar in it. This has fructose in it. These cured meats are known to be a cancer risk, right? Change the subsidy tax system to reward healthy options and punish bad ones. Tax foods that are ultra processed. Make them cost more. People eat them because they are cheaper. Give subsidies to the healthy foods. Tax the unhealthy foods. This is how we fix the system as a whole. But for those of you listening that want to make these changes or want to help others make these changes, as an individual, you don't need this. You can make the changes yourself. And I'm telling you, we're going to talk about the scientific studies on psychiatry and how making these changes can affect your mood in like a month or so. It's huge. All right. So um, I hope those of you that came into this episode thinking you knew all about ultra processed foods and everything you needed to know and you know, oh, I know how to avoid them, but I can't or whatever. I hopefully you learn more about what they are. Maybe there was some foods you thought weren't ultra processed, and you're like, "Holy crap, that is! Wow, I thought that granola and that yogurt were good for me." And then I hope you learn some things that you could eat instead of that, so that you don't you can actually replace that with something. And I hope that you understand the connection of how vital this is, and like you got to turn off the TikTok noise and the media and the news and the government and all this stuff that just it's just a bunch of nonsense. 98% of the stuff that they're hawking out there is not scientifically based. Okay? The information I'm giving you is based in science, and it's based on experience, science, things I've done, things I recommend, and tons, hundreds and hundreds of hours of research that I've done. Not like I've researched it in a lab, but that I have sourced the best sources I could possibly find and honed my knowledge in this. And I've taken hundreds of hours of stuff that I've learned and I've condensed it into these short episodes for you so that you can get all the benefit of that and hopefully make better changes for yourself so that you'll be healthier in mind and body. All right. So that is the end of this episode, but I want to go ahead and let you know the song for today. So let's see. Today's episode, I went with another NoFX song. They have so many great songs. This is an older song. I think it was from the Ribbed. Yeah, it's from the Ribbed album. Food, Sex, and You is spelled like a sheep because they like to be jokers, right? So I thought, we talked about food today. Sex, it's kind of like a a dopamine rush type of thing as well. Kind of like these are like the things that we think about when we want to indulge ourselves. And so it seemed like an appropriate song to me. Um, Check it out. And I hope you'll come back next time, and I'll see you then.